Hi everyone, welcome back to FPL Moneyball, where we use data analysis for your Fantasy Premier League teams. Today we'll be doing a Game Week 11 lessons learned, and we'll be covering the key player statistics, the player performances, how many points they scored in FPL, and also recap some of the key highlights from the matches this weekend. So let's jump right into how I performed this game week. Taking a look at my squad, I did play the bench boost this game week, and I scored a total points of 46 versus the average of 38 points. I think most of this can be attributed to goals from Mbuemo and João Pedro from Manchester United and Chelsea respectively, while I was pretty disappointed with the rest of the team that blanked throughout this game week, with both Semenyo and Haaland missing penalties, so that contributed to the lower points in my team. Also did pick up a suspension for Dan Burn, who will be missing the next game against Manchester City. He got a red card in that game, and also Enzo Fernandez possibly missing out due to an injury. So next, let's look at the matches that took place over this weekend. Firstly, was a thrilling 2-2 draw between Tottenham and Manchester United, with an early goal from Mbuemo, who was also in my FPL team. He did manage to score 7 points, and the match was back and forth, with Tottenham coming back to lead 2-1, but ultimately a header from De Ligt in the 90th plus 6th minute helped Manchester United seal the draw. So it was a pretty open game, although both of the teams weren't the best, playing to their best of their capabilities. With Manchester United, I feel, in my opinion, playing slightly better in terms of controlling the game, and they did limit Spurs until the red card incident, or I mean, not red card, but they went down to 10 men due to the stressful injury, and that kind of ruined the game for United, with conceding those two late goals, but ultimately really down to the strong performance from De Ligt with a towering header to level the score 2-2 in the dying moments of the game. So the game was pretty even, with actually Tottenham leading in terms of the expected goals, 0.9 versus 0.6 from United. Looking at the top XG&A, it was Bruno Fernandes who had the most XGI, and although Mbuemo was kept quiet with only 0.25, he was really clinical and able to convert the opportunity to score and return for me this game week. So next was a 2-0 win from Everton against Fulham. Goals coming from Gay and Michael Keane, and Everton also keeping a clean sheet, which has become very rare for them. So pretty solid performance by Everton, who dominated the games in terms of expected goals, 1.4 versus 0.4. And Fulham really seem to be struggling this season, looking towards finishing at the bottom half of the season, although we've only played 11 games so far. Top performer here was Dewsbury Hall in terms of XGA, and actually pretty disappointing from both Njai and Jack Grealish with 0.24 XGA, and Jack Grealish at 0.12 respectively, so not the best of games from them. Although I did think that Njai got an assist ruled out incorrectly for being offside, and VAR failed to flag that out. So, unlucky from him, and I expect more consistency from the officials going forward. So, unlucky for him to blank in this game week. Next was a thrilling 3-2 victory for West Ham. I believe their first or their second victory under Nuno. And the goals came from Callum Wilson, Souček, and Walker Peters, stealing the goal from Jarrod Bowen, who actually blanked this game week. And for Burnley, the players who were on the score sheet were Fleming and Josh Cullen, who also picked up the 3 bonus points. Taking a look at the statistics, West Ham dominated the XG, 3 versus 1 from Burnley. And I won't go into too much details, as I don't think that these teams are their best of form. So the top was actually Callum Wilson, who actually looks to be improving and starting more regularly under the new formation with Nuno. I think he did make some changes to move Jarrod Bowen or full crook away from the forward position and giving it to Callum Wilson. So maybe one to keep on the watch list, but doesn't really look attractive for me at the moment is Callum Wilson. Next was a 2-2 draw between Sunderland and Arsenal. Very surprising given that Arsenal has been super strong this season in the Premier League, and Sunderland, they've been the underdogs, being newly promoted to the Premier League this season. They managed to snatch a late draw in the 90th plus 4th minute with a goal from Robbie. So from Arsenal, Saka and Trossard were on the score sheet. Arsenal very surprisingly didn't manage to keep a clean sheet, which I believe is the first in a couple of games for them. So many of the widely owned Arsenal defenders blanked this game week, and Saka, coming back from injury, scored the goal and 3 bonus points as well for a total of 12 points. I believe he will be one of the top midfielders in this game week, and Trossard also picking up 9 points. On Sunderland's side, we did see Ballard pick up a goal as well and scoring a total of 10 points, while Mukiele picked up an assist in this game. Taking a look at the stats, a pretty dominant performance from Arsenal, 1.91 XG versus 0.44 from Sunderland. So really unlucky to concede those 2 goals against Sunderland. Saka leading in terms of the XGI with 0.71, followed by Marino and Zubimendi. So next was a more dominating performance from Chelsea, who won 3-0 against Wolves. Goal scorers were Gusto from the right back, also scoring 3 bonus points, picking up a clean sheet, and I believe defensive contributions as well. Also on the score sheet was João Pedro, who I do have in my team, and after his poor run of form, has scored 2 goals in the last 2 games in the Premier League. So looking to be improving on his form as well. And Pedro Neto also picking up a goal, with Garnacho picking up 2 assists. So this was a pretty comfortable win for Chelsea. Not much threat posed by Wolves, and we can see that in terms of the XG, Chelsea dominated 3.3 versus 0.17 from Wolves, so very low expected goals conceded for Chelsea in this game. And the defenders did keep a clean sheet, but ultimately the top XGI was going to Garnacho, Pedro Neto and Enzo Fernandez, who did pick up an injury, and as I do own him in my teams, I might be thinking about moving on from Enzo Fernandez, as he has been really disappointing for me, although he does have impressive XGA statistics. So next was Aston Villa versus Bournemouth, 4-0 victory for Aston Villa. Very disappointing for Bournemouth, who have seen their form dropped in the recent weeks. Antoine Semenyo missing the penalty for Bournemouth, and he picked up 0 points this game week, owned by more than 50% of managers. So very disappointing for them, and some managers, I believe, even Captain Semenyo. But on the other hand, very solid performance by Aston Villa, scoring 4 goals, with goals from Buendia, Onana, Barkley, and Marlon, all very lowly owned assets. And Martinez in goal also saving the penalty, keeping a clean sheet, and getting a few bonus points as well for the managers who still have some Aston Villa assets. Looking at the match was actually very tight, with the XGs almost split evenly, around 1.7 for each team. The top XG&A was Semenyo, who did miss the penalty, followed by Ollie Watkins, who again failed to score this season, and a few other Aston Villa players, and followed by Marcus Tavernier from Bournemouth as well. Next was Brentford beating Newcastle 3-1, and a surprising win from Brentford actually, given that Newcastle have been pretty strong this season. Newcastle picking up a red card from Dan Burn in the 73rd minute, who I also do own in my team, so very disappointing performance from him. And Newcastle seem to be struggling in the league. Maybe it's due to the fixtures that they have as well in the Champions League, contributing to that tiredness for them. But Brentford did look sharp, and the key performer for them was Thiago with a brace, scoring 10 points plus 3 bonus points for a total of 13 points this game week. and I do think that he's among the top three forwards alongside Haaland and João Pedro, and also maybe Mateta. If you want to look for a decent forward option, looking at the XG, a very dominant performance by Brentford, winning 2.4 versus 0.4 from Newcastle. And the top XG&A was actually Thiago with a very strong stat of 1.2 XG plus XA this game week. Next was a 0-0 draw between Brighton and Hove Albion and Crystal Palace. Although this definitely did not look at a 0.00 draw. I think Crystal Palace missing a handful of guilt-ridden chances. The key contributors there were Mateta and Sarr, who both, I believe, missed very big opportunities. And I think Sarr even hit the post again. But Crystal Palace defense coming out strong with the clean sheet, although their captain Gehi didn't play this game week. So, widely owned asset, but the star performer there was Mitchell and the left wing back, scoring 8 plus 3 bonus points. Looking at the statistics, Crystal Palace did win that 0.75 versus 0.4 from Brighton. At the top XG&A was actually Diego Gomez, Yeremy Pino, and then Sarr. Not a lot of XG&A, but it did look very close for me in the game. That there were quite a few opportunities for Crystal Palace to score, but somehow not reflected in the XG over here. Next was Nottingham Forest winning Leeds 3-1. Nottingham Forest bouncing back from their recent poor run of form with goals from Sangare and Gibbs-White, and Elliot Anderson also scoring the penalty for Nottingham Forest. Looking at stats, a pretty clear win over here, 2.6 versus 0.7 for Leeds. And the top XG&A will be Anderson, who did score that penalty for Nottingham Forest. Lastly was a convincing 3-0 victory from City beating Liverpool 3-0. Haaland did miss a penalty, although he somewhat did make up for it with a goal. Also goals from Jeremy Doku and Nico Gonzalez sealed the victory for Liverpool, who will be shaking their heads. Another very poor performance for them. And I was considering buying some Liverpool assets, given that they do have a strong run of form coming up. But this performance really makes me doubt my decisions going forward. And I might take a closer eye on some of these assets due to their poor run of form recently. So pretty dominant performance by City, winning the XG battle 1.5 versus 0.6 from Liverpool. And there's only one man at the top of this list with the XG plus XA will be Haaland with 0.93, followed by Salah with 0.5. So that's the recap for the performance, the player performances this game week. This is how my team is looking for the next game week 12 after the international break. I do have to make a couple of transfers. I have three free transfers in the bank, possibly looking to replace Dan Burn, who will be suspended until the 29th of October, 29th of November, and Enzo Fernandez, who is not only disappointed in terms of form, but he's also likely to face a spell on the sidelines. So I will be sharing more thoughts and opinions of the potential transfer targets that I have in the next few game weeks. So stay tuned for that video. So pretty average, I would say, performance from me this game week. Not a lot of differential standing out and scoring points this game week. So I think most people have scored pretty badly this game week with an average about 40 points. So not too disappointed, and we'll reevaluate our transfers once the international break is over. So make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.